Grill? Have you ever been to Chilling Grill?
I have been to Chilling Grill.
I love Chilling Grill. My mom was just telling me.
My girlfriend would die right now if she. That's hilarious.
That's one of my favorite places if I'm gonna go out and sneak out because
There
I'm
you
just
go.
looking, like as
Yeah.
chefs or anything, or as foodies or whatever. Is sometimes it's not about how fancy the food is because a lot of things get lost. Like if it's your mind that's making it and presenting it, that like. Okay, this is spot on. This works.
Right.
But it's like sitting down and eating it sometimes is like all you think about is, man, I'd just do this and I would do this and I would do this and I would just change it. And then it's like you have these little honey holes. Like Chilling Grill to me is like it doesn't matter what it is. Every time I have it, I'm not expecting the world. I'm expecting flavor, like just home cooking kind of thing. And in the fact that they're able to get away with the home cooking side of it and run the restaurant and it's all family operated is like, to me, is like, okay, that's cool. Like,
well, next time you're down over that way, Sebastian, which is the city right before Vero. So my girlfriend's parents own a brewery over there called Paradolia. It's like like one of the biggest craft breweries in the Sebastian area.
I'm a mile north of the inlet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm I'm right there. Like, if we go anywhere, it's like I'm going south. I'm going down to Shiro. And
there you go. Paradolia. It's like right off like where US 1 and that Baskin Robbins is. I think it's like Cleveland Street or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Let's do this podcast.
We've been live. We've been live this whole time.
Perfect.
What an amazing way to start a podcast. Everyone, welcome. Thank you for tuning in.
How's it going?
Late Night with Chefs, Truffle Boy and Doug reporting for duty, back to back with another guest chef this evening. Doug, introduce our guest chef of the evening, please.
With pleasure. Hello, everybody. Thank you all. Tonight, as you guys have probably heard, this is Chef Carson. He is joining us out of Melbourne, Florida, currently at Ember and Oak. For those of you down here in the good old Sunshine State, like me and Chef Carson here, go check him out there after the show if you'd like. Chef Carson, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with us. So if you don't mind, we'd love to kind of hear a little bit about your background, your culinary journey, so to speak.
Yeah. So, my culinary journey, besides like cooking with my parents and stuff like that and grandparents, everything, thinking about it just now, I was on a summer league swim team with this kid. His name was Keegan. I can't remember his last name. And he was obsessed with Iron Chef. And after like swim meets and stuff like that, or like get-togethers and everything, this was in Georgia back in early 2000s, I'd say. And we'd watch Iron Chef. And it was one of those things is he was like, oh, I want to do that. And at the moment I was like, man, I really like cooking, but I wasn't sure if that was something that I really wanted to do. Because I mean, you're 10 years old,
Exactly.
And it's one of those things is like, he was like, no, I want to do it. And, if you were ever in like competitive sports, is being competitive is always one of those things. So it was like, well, I also really like cooking. So after that, we spent a couple times, everything like that, Iron Chef, and we used to have these like little parties that you like watch parties back in like early 2000 of it. And after that, it just kind of started clicking that, in the back of my mind, that's what I wanted to do, but you don't really think about it too much. Fast forward 3 years, I moved to Alabama and I was on a greens team for a country club where we cut the greens, we raked the bunkers, basically a bunker bitch. And it was one of those things is they didn't need us after the summer job. So I asked the chef if I could work in the kitchen. And then I started working in the kitchen and I did prep every day, all day, every day for about 9 months. And then eventually—
That is quite an introduction.
It was one of those things is that's, I spent 9 months, I'd say roughly, just doing brunoise, celery, onions, and carrots. And that's all I did. And that's all he'd let me touch. And then after my prep time was up, I bust tables, I bar back, I was a server assistant, I was an expo, you know, I power floated, and then
So we had a chef actually share a very similar story about having to do, you know, Brinois, Mirepoix as like that first entry level thing. But he said that at the end of Brunoising these 22 quarts, you know, 5 times over of
throw it in the
Mirepoix.
stock pot, baby.
Yep. Is that what saying?
Oh yeah, yep.
Oh my goodness.
Throw it right into the stock pot.
But can we give a shout out to who made you do this?
To
I
that
think
chef?
that is
I,
like
so that was his name was Chris Amsbury.
Chris Amsberg. Thank you.
Yeah. So Chris Amsbury.
That's you know that's you. There's like a Russian saying. I don't know the English saying for it, but like I guess it's muscle memory, right? Like you're never not gonna Brunois
exactly
carrot, celery, and onions wrong ever again.
You know, to me, it was one of those things. Is like cooking is like making the dish is awesome. Like when you have all the ingredients and you go to cook and you get to like actually plate it and do everything, but the real beginning of building a flavor is your knife work, is your prep, is like how much time have you put into perfecting every little cut, you know, every movement to get the final product that you're looking for. And that's, to me, it's like building a sauce, you know. It starts with prep. You can't just go ahead and, if you were to walk into a kitchen and everything was prepped out and 9 pans or quart containers or anything like that, and you just start building it, you already have that disconnection to what the end product is going to be.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's such a kind of like Vlad was hinting at, but it's such a lost art, that sort of dedication. I mean, you can go to Cisco now and you can buy slivered onion, slivered green pepper, diced tomato, you know, whatever you want. It comes cut, it comes ready, and it's maybe 50 cents more a pound.
Exactly. And people look at it as
we just had Justin or Just Jake tuning in live on Twitch said sheesh, my man at the bottom looking good. Doug is my idol, so I don't know who that is, but Doug, you got some
thanks, Just Jake,
fanboys out there tuning in.
Thanks, Just Jake. But no, yeah, the lost art is, it's, you know, I think it's almost detrimental, I would say, to our industry. It's a big part of it that, like you said, that refinement, that repetitiveness of like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get this, and something that's not easy either. I mean, Brunoising is not an easy task.
No, it's not. And, you know, and nothing in this industry is easy. Like when people see these, you know, glorified or over glorified chefs on TV, it's a 1 in a million. And by 1 in a million, I mean, it's like you got to know the right people to even get into that world and stuff like that. But the day-to-day grinders, or like the people that are putting in the time, that are self-taught, or, you know, at the end of the day, we're our worst critics. So, you know, you can put in a 12, 14-hour shift, go home, you're going to sit there and rewind that 14-hour shift. And if you nicked your finger on one cut, you're going to sit there and go, okay, well, I need to remember that if I'm going that fast, to tuck that back. And, you know, like, you're constantly
there's
trying
no
to
slack
compensate.
for working the 14 hours.
No, there's not. But so I was at this country club all through high school. I worked every single day. I would leave school the last, like, my junior and senior year. I would leave at 12 o'clock and I would just go right into work, and I'd work till close. And I did that, you know, I was putting in 50, 55, sometimes 60 hours through high school. And once I graduated high school, I moved down to Florida, which is where I'm originally from. And I landed a job with Sean Murphy at the Beach Bistro in Holmes Beach, who is, I think at the time they were #1 restaurant in Florida, like 13 years in a row, James Beard nominated, everything like that. And then that was really the introduction of, man, this is real food. Like what I was doing before was just the groundwork to get me to where I need to be. And then I worked for them for about 9, almost 10 months, just shy of a year. I lived an hour and a half away, so it was 3 hours of driving every single day. Had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I wouldn't leave till 1:30, almost 2 o'clock. Drive home, sleep, and then I'd turn right back around and do it all over again. And I eventually got to the point where the owner sat me down and he was like, "I'm worried you're gonna fall asleep on the way home. Like, you ever make it up this way, I got a position for you." And he was like, "But as you know, with you being an hour and a half, almost 2 hours away with traffic, because driving through downtown St. Petersburg in season is horrible. I don't know if either of you have ever done that, but it is awful." And
it is.
It just got to the point where we cut ties on that end. I still talk to him every once in a while. I still reach out to him. I keep him updated with portfolios and everything like that. I've gone out to eat there multiple times. He's offered me jobs back, and nothing has ever really kind of met up on that to go through with it. And then I left his place and I immediately took chef de cuisine. It was like 19. And that was at this busy restaurant in Inglewood, Florida. We do 1,200 to 1,800 covers a day. Everything made in house. We process anywhere from 500 to 800 pounds of fish a day, and we would sell out. And
jeez,
yeah, so we were, you know, massive. that was where I got my first run in with, like, besides the beach bistro, like filleting whole fish, like you get the big groupers, the big snappers, and everything like that. But then the chef there at Farlow's in Inglewood, he took me under his wing and taught me a lot of things, man. I mean, you know, he showed me the right way, he showed me the wrong way sometimes. And, you know, as a chef, you always kind of have to find your own path. You have to depict, like, what information, like, you're receiving the information, but what are you going to keep? You know, everything in this industry in some type of way is a lesson.
That is such an important note. And I tell a lot of young culinarians that is, you don't necessarily have to agree with every way the chef does something, but while you're working in that kitchen, you do it that way. And then you learn, like, oh, I think this worked well. Oh, I think this didn't work well. And then you can bring that with you when you're the chef and, you know, put that in your kitchen. But to have that detriment, and, you know, it sounded like you had the right attitude about it. Maybe that's not how you would have done it, but this is how they're doing it there. So that's how you're going to do it. And you use that as a learning opportunity, no matter what.
I mean, it's like the old phrase, you know, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. You know, everybody has their own method in this world. Go back on the lost art of things and everything like that. Like, you know, I have said it before multiple times, but, you know, the whole culinary chef thing and everything like that, it's turning into a dying breed. Because when people get into it and they want to do it, they don't realize how much work it takes and sacrifice and dedication. Like, you know, where, you know, you could have a group of friends, you know, my group of friends was always at the restaurant. So we were always together, you know, but it was one of those things is like where people would be like, "Hey, we're going out Friday night." Well, I'm not, you know, I'm working. Like, I have things
I'll be at the bar next door at 3 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like, I will try and make last call.
Hey, you guys still up?
Yeah.
It's like I went to Vlad's restaurant and then we went to the bar afterwards. It might have been like 1 a.m, but, you know, the culinary industry folk, they got to stay together.
Exactly. You know, it's just one of those things is your best bet is to just try and learn everything and pick up as many techniques as you possibly can. Because anybody who's been in the industry, like the old heads and everything like that, who've been working for 35, 40 years in the industry, that were, you know, line cooks when they were 12 years old at their father's restaurant or anything, they all have industry secrets. And, you know, it's important to find those and ask them about them, or, you know, have them. And a lot of them just want to know that, like, people still care. You know, when COVID happened and then it's like I got laid off, I moved over here. I took a break for a little bit because I was like, you know, I'm sure we all did at some point where we're like, what the hell are we supposed to do now?
Yeah.
But I took a job. It was like my first short order job I've ever done. And it was at a pizza place. Best pizza I've ever had. You know, they make all the dough in house.
Neapolitan style?
No, it's not. It's New York style.
Okay.
But they do a sourdough crust. So they sit there and build their biga for 14 hours, and then it's a 3-day crust. So it takes 3 days for every pie that is served out of there. And I mean, they're doing on Friday, Saturday nights, it's a little hole in the wall in a strip mall. They're doing 15,000 in sales.
These are deck ovens or
yeah, deck ovens.
I love the good old deck oven. I mean, that's still,
you know, it's awesome. They're great.
The pizza place down here in St. Pete, that's what they got. Joey's Brooklyn. They got 3 double stacked deck ovens. It's delicious.
Yeah. But their pizza is so good. And there was a guy that worked there. His name was Jeff. And he had been making pizza since he was like knee high to a grasshopper. You know, he was in his late 50s, everything like that. But any young gun that think they could run the pizza line, I didn't run the pizza line. I got stuck microwaving lasagna and, you know, making cold cuts. And it was like, I was horrible at it. I mean, just horrible. People at Publix would sit there and just run circles around me, making subs. And me, I was just like, I don't have that. You know, I can put up a multiple component plate and spend all day prepping it and everything, but you lose that connection with the food.
It's a different skill set, yeah.
Yeah, and this guy Jeff, though, I mean, he taught me in the time frame that I started working there, which I worked there about 5-6 months before I started at Ember and Oak, and he spent every single day that we worked together teaching me about pizza dough and touch, feel. This is why I roll this out. This is why I hand toss this. This is why I do this. This is why I need to do this. Like the information that these old guys have that like a lot of young people, when they step into a kitchen, I don't know if they look at it sometimes as, well, I want his job, as opposed to you should really be learning from him to improve, because you're not going to compete with him when it comes to production. You're not going to you know, I'm sure you've worked.
There's no way you're getting his job.
I love that you.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that you brought that. It's a great. You said it very well. I think a lot of the young guns who are coming in, I know me myself, I'm guilty of it. You know, you come and you're hunting for that position versus what is this guy? You know, like, how much can you learn from him? Can you absorb everything he has? And how do you do that, right? Because it's 2 different approaches.
Oh, yeah.
You know, one's like a positive, hey, mentor me to your position. And one's like, fuck this guy. Like, oh, he has it out for me. Like he's, you know.
Yeah, it's the kitchen ballet, man. You know, you're constantly going to be in that position. I mean, I am very guilty of it. I have gone into places with the mindset that now I'm here and I want his job. I want this restaurant. I'm going to take it from him, set a deadline, set a goal. And then it's okay. This is what I need to do to make it happen. But with him, dude, there was no way. Like, there was no way. Even if I didn't really want to, because it was just kind of that in-between position. And it was like, oh, I'll learn from this guy and figure some things out. And I've used more of his techniques and methods in the last 6 months that, like, I think I've ever really used anybody's methods on just how he goes about just day-to-day work, you know? He's been in it forever. So his understanding of balance towards certain things, like if you work with fresh pasta, if you work with doughs, if you work with anything from scratch, it's like his mentality and how he would portray his understanding of the ingredients in front of him. And it's kind of just like I took his mentality in a way where it's like I didn't want the position. You know, I considered him a friend, where it was like, I want to learn from this guy and I'm going to pick his brain as much as possible. And then a 9-10 hour shift, I mean, by the end of the shift, he'd be like, do you ever shut up?
I've heard that so many times. But that's the best position to be in, right? You know, I used to have, you know, the pleasure of working next to Chef Johnny at GT Prime, and he was the sous chef, CDC now, probably executive chef, you know. I'm not too sure, but he was on the expo, you know, and I was on the pasta station. So like, I would ask the most obnoxious random food questions ever, and he'd get annoyed
in the middle of service.
The whole time.
Yeah,
just like, it's like any second I can get it in.
It's like a game where you're like, how do I throw this guy off?
Yeah.
And then he's firing on all cylinders at all times. Yes. But he's miserable and hates life.
But it's like watching like a ballet, like you said, it's watching, you know, a master of his craft just perform.
Yeah, like, you know, like to me, like the whole pizza side of thing was, I love their pizza. I ate their pizza. And I was like, you know, and I'm sure like if you eat at a place, you're like, man, I really like their food. Like I could see myself working there. And then you go to work there and you're like, yeah, this is not me at all. But you start to kind of like, you enjoy the group. You know, a lot of it is who's around you in that time span that you are still getting to do what you love. And, you know, you're still bringing in some type of income or anything like that. Like,
that kitchen culture.
Exactly. I mean, again, it's all a balancing act in this industry. But I mean, dude, watching him throw pies at his age, which like, you know, 57 is what, the new 70. It's one of those things, but like, I mean, the guy was just a mastermind. And it's like every chance I can, it's like we did pizzas and flatbreads at Ember and Oak for a tasting menu. And they had an extra dough, and it was like, man, I had to grab the extra dough. And it was like, I had to flour it. I had to toss it. I had to do something with it just to feel that like connection again, you know?
Right. And bread baking, you know, even at the pizza level, you know, you can refine it, you know, for years and still, you know, have room for, you know, improvements. And like you were saying, it's a 3-day sourdough, like that got from somewhere, right? It means, you know, that's love, you know, that's not you know, a fast food type of pizza. I mean,
that's to the grave stuff.
Right. And kind of talk us through it for all, you know, our viewers that are interested in pizza. I know I've done so many different variations. I've done sourdough, you know, Neapolitan, Detroit style. So it really is a process, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the biggest thing is I don't know if it's everywhere that calls it this way, but like where I was at and I learned how to do that side of things was they called it Biga, you know, where it's your starter. They constantly fed their starter every single day. But they took a section of that starter to fold into their production starter. So it was old starter mixed with new starter. Now, if you have old starter, new starter coming together, you know, your yeast and like the fermentation and bubbles and everything like that, it's going to hyper feed, so to say. So they would hyper feed and then they'd let it rest out and then they would refrigerate it. And like, you know, they would do a cold rise, which the cold rise dough, to me, like certain breads it works really well for. I'm not a baker, so by any means, I stay away from that stuff for the most part. But it's one of those things is they had it down to an exact science where, you know, baking in Florida is difficult because temperature, humidity, everything changes on a regular basis. And they had developed this recipe that it could accommodate any, you know, surrounding as far as like the atmosphere goes. Just
any fluctuations or
just by adding the older starter into the new starter. And that would really be the main thing that they would weigh out is folding that into it and then going from there.
Julia Hill tuning in from YouTube is asking if you ever got the recipe.
No, I did not, man. Thanks, Mom.
You gotta get the old starter, new starter.
So
recipe.
is it a recipe or is it more like feel, or is there an equation of flour, water?
They have their starter recipe, to my knowledge. I was supposed to learn pizzas there, and I never did. And I think it's because they knew I wasn't going to be there very long, and it was one of those things is like, well, we can't teach him because he's just going to leave, and then he's going to take it with him.
Yeah, it's a crown jewel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which, everybody's been to that spot where it's like, I got to learn how to do this, and then I'm done. Like, I'm out. I'll take it with me forever. But I never learned how to do it. I could get the recipe very easily, for sure. But it's been one of those things is I respect what they do and I love their pizza. So and I don't do pizza. So it's like, if I ever needed it, for sure, I could definitely take it.
And you'd twist it up anyways.
I'd fuck it up anyways. You know what I mean? Like,
because that's how we are, right? We can't just take, even as much as we, if me and Doug cook the same recipe, it's going to be completely different. Even just based on like salt, fat, and acid of what we're adding.
It's not even that. Like, I've always said that as like recipes you can give, and I've done that before as like executive chef and everything like that. And I spent multiple times where I was executive chef of 2 restaurants at once, and it was, if people came into work, it was like, well, here's the recipe, you make it, and here's the recipe, and you make it, and it's completely different. And then you kind of finish it off was like, okay, well, I'm going to make the dish. And when you present all 3 together, you see, just
like the individualistic styles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You see their own touch on it and everything like that. Like, cause searing a scallop is searing a scallop, but how many steps do you take to sear?
How hot's the burner? Do you sear it on both sides?
Yeah. Do you just salt? What do you do,
Vlad?
Dry?
Do you sear both sides?
No, me? No, I sear one side.
Oh, thank God. Good man.
I sear one side.
That's a Florida chef.
And honestly, I really don't like scallops. I've ate and cooked so many in my lifetime.
I'm a fanatic. I love them.
I like
them
raw.
Right? They're neutral.
I like them raw. I like them seared.
I like them raw. I can do raw. And I can eat scallops, don't get me wrong. I will mow down scallops. But if I want scallops, it's like I want U20s and I want them fried.
Really?
Like I just want,
that's a hot take.
There's a place right down the street from us, New England Eatery, and they do this thing. It's like fisherman's platter. It's just a bunch of fried stuff, but it's all fresh. They bring in whole belly Ipswich clams. They bring in like really good Nantucket scallops, everything like that. But it's like at the end of the day, however many times I've prepared scallops, I've made scallops, I've prepped scallops. It's like, I don't want a big U8. I don't want a U10,
That's right. That's the money spot. That's the U10 for me with the brown butter and the cast iron.
Yeah. It's good. It is good.
Right.
But it doesn't, it's like, by the time you're done eating the scallops, I always sit there and I'm like, man, I feel like it could have been a lot more. Like I agree with you. They have
right. What are you gonna get?
Flavor.
3 U10s for $32?
Exactly.
That then you're not getting 4 or 5. So I feel you on that. Where especially with the Nantuckets when they're in season, that's always a filler.
Yeah, that's different. Like I've overnighted whole scallops. I've overnighted like diver scallops using like foods in season and stuff like that, and cleaned whole scallops and everything. And that's a whole different product as opposed to getting a dry pack. You know, here's your U10s dry pack.
Well, I love that you brought that. Like it's like only dry pack. Give it to me in the number 10 can dry pack. The wet stuff, like, you know, you know, I went to my parents' house and they're like, oh, cook these frozen scallops for me. And I'm like, no,
they could be U10s. They're U10s frozen, but when they're cooked, they're a U30.
Right. So, you know, just like how easy it is for us chefs to like connect on that, you know, like agree on that. Like, yes, that's the product. That's the bare minimum of like your standards where they should be.
Exactly. You know, but it's just one of those things like scallops. They're great for crudo. They're great. Like, I love them preserved. I love them dried. I love them every way besides seared. And just like, and given to me where it's like, here's a scallop. And then it's like, you see that plate and you sit there and go, okay, the sear's beautiful. I know the top part's going to be amazing. It's going to be delicious. But once you get into the middle part, you're like, it's a scallop. Like it falls short. There's too much median between cooking. And like, to do it properly is you only sear that top side.
Right.
And then either you baste or you cook it in brown butter or you rest it in butter to finish and bring up temp and everything like that. At the end of the day, I mean, your flavor comes from it being GBD. It's got to be golden brown and delicious. And there's not enough median on it.
I agree. I think scallops with no butter is I just rather not have them.
Blasphemy.
Unless they're in like crudo where you have that, you know, acid and then you're really playing on the texture.
Yeah.
Yeah, you incorporate the fat.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, and like that's it's beautiful. It's great.
But I think why scallops are always you know, a hit is because no one's cooking scallops at home, you know, at least on that level, it's like
everybody is cooking scallops.
I've had fish, I've had steak this week.
No one at home is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had salmon at the house, you know.
Yeah.
And it stores way better. So like, unless you're going through a gallon a night, like it's really hard to keep, you know, those suckers fresh. But that being said, it's awesome to be able to, you know, I used to have scallops on my station. All the orange ones, I'd be like, oh, I have to taste test this.
Yeah, those are the females are the good ones. Like those, I'll take all day long. Orange scallops, female scallops, everything like that. They're firmer. They're less creamy on the inside when you fucking cook them. I mean, if you could just get a dry pack female scallop, then all day long.
Yeah, $450.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Hey. If you can get it, if you
right now, the U10s over here on the West Coast, $210 a bucket. Starting to climb, yeah. The U10 dry packs, yeah.
I couldn't tell you. We switched our scallops to. We were using U10s, but it was one of those things that, like, as an add-on for. So Amber and Oak we're a steakhouse, but we're a tapas style steakhouse.
Oh, cool.
So you can order. Like we've got, you know, big steaks, everything like that. We slice them, we truffle butter them, we demi them, everything like that. It gets put on the cast iron. You had me
at truffle butter.
Yeah, it gets cauliflower puree, it gets cream spinach, it gets a loaded Hasselback, it gets a Caesar salad.
Oh, the Hasselback! I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I worked at a steakhouse. We had a Hasselback. We used to, you know, take the 2 chopsticks. And then confit it in butter in the combi, and then pick it up in the fryer.
Yeah, so we don't pick it up in the fryer. We did for a while, but it kind of like people aren't really feeling it because like old people in Florida are like,
yes, I see what potato. Right? Yes. You know, we've definitely had that complaint.
At the same time, like, you know, we do our cheese sauce. We make in house, everything like that.
Is there any Velveeta in it? Any Velveeta?
No, there's not. No Velveeta. We do aged white cheddar. We do the B Master Gouda, and then we do imported raclette Swiss cheese.
Ooh.
And yeah,
that throws a little funk in there.
It throws a little funk in it, but it throws in that that
Good
proper
funk.
amount. Yeah, and
The
then
proper
funk.
we top it with cherry wood aged bacon, chives. We make our own creme fraiche in house, and we top it with that. Everything. I mean,
I love it. You're speaking my language. I know
it's a great potato.
I'm seeing it as you speak.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things is, you show up, say you're a 4-top, you get a couple appetizers. All our appetizers shared. They're meant to be shared. And then say you order the 62-ounce Black Diamond Porterhouse. Ooh. And you get, we slice it for you. So once it hits the table we do whole leaf Caesars. So everybody can grab like a couple leaves of Caesar. The Hasselback. The one thing about the Hasselback is it's great for splitting because it's already pre-cut.
Yeah.
You can separate it off. Everybody gets a piece of potato, cream spinach. We do a roasted bone marrow that's stuffed with braised short rib and oxtail.
Ooh.
And then it gets finished with gremolata.
That's what I love about steakhouse. It's like, give me that rich and indulge. Like, I'm here to feast. Like, it's not like, a couple salad courses here and there and, a little protein. Exactly. It's like,
oh, no.
You're getting fed.
It's overload. Definitely. But it's worth it. It's good stuff. All our mushrooms. There's a guy over here, Fun Guy John. Shout out. I don't know. But
Fun Guy John seems like a fun guy.
Yeah, he is a fun guy. But he's in our area and he cultivates about 800 pounds of mushrooms a week. So we get all different types of.
So like blue oysters, maitake,
blue oysters,
lion's mane,
black pearls, lion's mane, abalone mushrooms. He just started. He's looking at introducing like a Florida lobster mushroom, so to say, where he wants to go around and inject root systems with the fungus that takes over on mushrooms that he's known like they grow wild there. We get a ton of different types of mushrooms from him, and so all our mushrooms are great. They're not wild foraged or anything. We've all done that where you're ordering chanterelles and Saskatchewans and
hedgehogs,
bluefoots and hedgehogs and yellowfoots and black trumpets. Like to me,
porcini season.
Trumpets. Yeah, porcinis.
Just
everything
fat
like that.
one, like ooh.
Yeah. Like you get a 2-pound porcini, and it's like porcini, and it's just huge. It's one of those things. Is like the connections that we have over here, and I will say with like Florida especially is. We kind of have the best of everything all the way around. There's always someone working on something. There's always someone fishing. There's always someone that's running a cattle farm or anything like that you can start picking beef from. So it's kind of like Florida is, the opposite of California.
Now with Florida, I feel like it's booming with newcomers, right? At least from what I'm seeing from Chicago, right? Like the whole Russian mob just moving down to Florida now. That's how it feels like to me.
Yeah, we definitely have an influx as far as population goes for the most part. It's very seasonal. The west coast of Florida is more seasonal than the east coast of Florida is. The east coast has, I don't know if it's just more sound retirees or like whatever it is, but when I was on the west coast of Florida in Inglewood and Venice and Sarasota area, we would be cranking all day every day for 4.5 5 months, and then it shuts off and you're done. Yep. And then you're cutting staff, you're hey, I'll bring you back next year, and you lose that guy permanently. It's not that easy when you're in that kind of hyper seasonal region. Over here, it seems pretty consistent.
There's not a big drop off.
No, it's not a huge drop off for the most part. And the people that are going to come out to eat are always going to come out to eat, kind of thing. Where it's like when I was at the other coast, I was executive chef of a bistro and then a casual fine dining on the beach, and that was the sister restaurant, and it was every year you'd lose 50% of your customers And then it was like, then you got to spend the summer feeding the locals, which is great. But the locals don't spend money.
Right.
And money spending's good.
Yeah. It definitely keeps our
well,
industry alive.
Well, vacation mode and, livable mode is, two different things.
Right. Exactly.
I love what your mom just said. She said, lots of old timers here. The mob has always been in Florida. Hashtag Rat Pack Miami, snowbirds fly home. Wow. I love that. That's amazing.
I love it. I saw there's definitely that influx over here. I mean, we're almost out of season over here on St. Pete Beach, and we're starting to see that sort of dwindle down. But when I was working on the East Coast, you're right. It's a constant, state of affairs. You have a lot of 55 plus retirement communities all up and down the Treasure Coast, and a lot of those people are not snowbirds. You definitely have your influx in the December, January, February, but the summer can be just as busy sometimes.
Exactly. And the thing is that I will say, from the East Coast to West Coast of Florida speaking, there are more adventurous eaters to me on the East Coast of Florida than there is on the West Coast, from my personal experience. I don't know. How do you feel?
I mean, I worked in a Disney resort, so there's no adventure. Yeah, everyone's there for their steak and potatoes.
I love how all chefs just talk it down. Like, this guy brought in a vegan menu item that's like, globally known for Disney now, and he's just like, not a lot of adventurous eaters. I mean, you still have your picky eaters, right? Where you get to be a little creative, like, gluten-free, whatever, intolerance, dairy, blah blah blah, and then the sous chef or the CDC has to be like, all right, I got this. Like, step aside.
Yeah, let me do it.
Give me this top.
Yeah. No, I would say my East Coast experience was definitely a little bit different. We had a lot of members of the Disney Vacation Club, so we were open to the public, but it was probably split 95% of the DVC members and 5% locals.
Right.
We were much more catered to the Orlando-esque style of guest.
Mm-hmm.
We were used as kind of like, everyone would go to Disney for a couple of weeks, and then they'd come with us for like the last 3 days and kind of hang out before going back to reality.
Right.
So it was that Orlando sort of food scene vibe, which we can probably all attest to what Orlando food scene vibe looks like, unless you're the ravenous pig. So
yeah, it's true. So you were at the Vero location?
Yeah, down on A1A.
Okay, I know. My mom took my kids to one of their. They did the Disney breakfast. Yeah, character breakfast, man. Oh yeah.
You're bringing me back now. I'm just having PTSD.
Oh yeah. No, they had a blast. It was awesome. So
it's funny. That's funny. Well, before we wrap up, Chef, do you want to tell us a little bit about where people can kind of, continue to watch your journey? I'm sure we have some people who are tuning in from Florida who would love to come see you and come check you out. Where can they find you?
So I mainly only really like to post or anything to Instagram. It's at chef _branch. And I kind of keep a daily log of what we do at Ember and Oak. I work with a bunch of people over there. We have I work with Grills by Devant. We've got a wood burning grill from him that we do all of our whole protein cookery from and everything like that. We're working on some other concepts that are coming out of the restaurant, hopefully here in the future. I am really big into fresh pasta. That's like one of my
extruded pasta.
No. Hand rolled. No, you can't extrude.
Because it's two different, different things.
I've been working on
that looks really dry, but it comes out great. And the other one is like, you're kneading, you're putting in that love,
Yeah. You gotta, it's the thing with pasta to me is a lot of my main shapes and stuff I've developed separate recipes for, but my biggest thing is I've been working on a universal dough that I can make multiple shapes with one dough. So I'm never sitting there trying to change ratios.
And is this 000 with egg yolks with egg whites or?
Yeah, so I do 00 and semolina mix.
Love it.
My pasta dough recipe that I make right now has 36 egg yolks in it. And it's 36 egg yolks for 6 cups of flour. And that's combined, semolina and 00. The ratio, I don't really know. Can't really disclose that because I'm still tweaking it.
I like
but
it.
I've been able
whites,
to
though? Just straight.
No egg whites.
Just an egg
no
yolk.
egg whites.
Love
just
it.
egg yolk. No, sorry, it does have egg whites. I supplement the water that would go into the regular dough with egg whites, and then I also add in finishing oil and sea salt into it. And right now I'm up to, I can sit there and make almost any shape that I want out of this one pasta dough, and it have that toothsome bite to it. I dry all the pasta before I go to preserve it or freeze it or anything like that. So you're definitely securing that al dente bite to each, because when you do fresh pasta, you lose that a lot of the time. It doesn't matter what you're making, extruded or fresh or hand rolled. It's very one textured, and like that's kind of a side project that I've been working on through Amber and Oak.
And now, do you keep it in? Do you keep it if it is fresh, meant for service? Do you keep it, with like just a dry towel over it in the walk-in?
Me personally, I dry it out, and then I'll dry it out about 50%, I'd say, and then I'll actually blast it in the freezer and let it freeze, and then pull from there, so that you're locking in that last bit of air. Because when you extrude pasta, you're just pressing all the air out of it. When you run pasta through a sheeter, depending on what it is, you just run all the air through it. If you're hand rolling pasta, you're just incorporating the air. If you're kneading it properly, you're letting it rest, because even though it doesn't have an active organism in it, it still produces air pockets when it rests. So that's been a whole side.
Right. There's like
project.
These layers, right? With the fresh pasta.
Exactly. So it's one of those things that I've been working on that and trying to get that all down pat. It's never going to be probably perfect, because I think the second you sit there and look at it and be like, oh, it's perfect and it's done, then you should just step out of the kitchen, because you should always be trying to find the next best thing, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I don't bake. I can bake, but I don't like measuring too many things, especially flour, and it has to be super exact. And, if I spill some over, then it is what it is. But with pasta, it's the one thing that I will say that it's exact every single time, to really kind of dial that whole side of things in. But you can find me at Chef Ranch __ on Instagram. I keep up with most everything that we do at the restaurant on a daily basis, and also home projects. I'm always cooking out at home, always having family events and everything like that, and posting those. If I could cook every single day, then I'd be good. It's one of those things.
So with everybody going on to your Instagram page and seeing, the long hair, what we got a haircut there, or what happened to all the hair? What's the story behind it?
So the first time I left the country, I went to Jamaica. I stayed at this place, which was this like Rastafarian compound. It was super cool. Met some really awesome people, learned some really awesome things. Definitely brought a whole new light into what cooking is, because how they cook in Jamaica on the island and everything like that is way different than we do. And towards the end of my trip, I had long hair at the time. I always wanted dreadlocks. Towards the end of the trip, it was kind of one of those things. Is like, if I'm gonna get dreads, then I'm gonna do it in Jamaica. And
I mean,
I had
where
them.
else would you get dreads?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
You know what? Like and I had them for like 6 years. And
That's a long time.
Dude, I took, and the thing was that made me cut them is everybody started associating me with the chef with dreads. And it was like, it's nothing against dreads, but it was like, I want to be known for my food, not my hair.
Got it.
I took a executive chef job at a hotel in Punta Gorda. And it was 2 restaurants again, so exec of 2 restaurants. And as soon as I took that, like, it was my first real corporate position, I felt like, all right, I had to like cut them off and be a little more professional. Because when you sit in this like boardroom and you're going over all your like reports and everything like that, and like you're just that guy with dreadlocks. It's like sitting at the table, like everybody's in suits, and like after a couple times, I was like, all right.
Yeah, so we're at 26% food costs, looking good on labor. Labor's hitting us at 14%, and everybody's just looking at your hair. I could see that.
Yeah, and it was, and I ran great numbers at like the bistro I ran for 4.5 years almost at 17% food cost.
Wow.
The hotel that I ran, which was 2 restaurants, I ran.
And is that just like cross utilization across the menu?
Utilization. I mean, it's full butchery, everything like that. Like, it got to the point I was bringing in whole sides of beef. I only brought in whole fish. I used the whole fish, but I had gained that following that it was one of those things is, I was bringing in domestic Colorado lamb, and I was bringing them in whole, and I would have a dish that I'd utilize the necks for. I would cook down the head, and I'd use that in a dish. I would braise out the legs, the shanks, everything. That was a dish, or I'd grind them and make patties out of it. And then, my chops and everything, I was getting $75 for 2 bones. So, pricing definitely had a lot to play into keeping a food cost, which it always does.
Right.
But I think people that are looking for that realistic, successful food cost number it doesn't necessarily come from how you use the food. It comes from the people that are coming to eat your food. Because if they are going out to eat, they already know that they are going to spend money, but they are coming here to spend money. I mean, I had at the restaurant last 2 Saturdays ago, I had some regulars from the bistro that I haven't seen in 2 years since COVID. They drove 4.5 hours just to come and eat. And, they stayed at the hotel. So they brought in, they supported local businesses the whole time they were there, but they ate with me, and they came there just to eat. Saturday night, we did, I think, 230 people, and we executed a 5-course tasting menu on top of it just for their table, and my parents joined them. And it was, you get that following.
Yeah.
That's when you can really start kind of dialing in a lot of different factors into it. I mean, where you start looking at wine dinners and things like that. I mean, on the other coast, I had a wine dinner that's, I did for $1,000. I had 5 courses, and he bought all the wine. He brought his own wine out of the cellar. It's like, I just had to bring in food and make it. And it's like, he couldn't even make it for the event. So he showed up 2 hours after the event just to take his food home to go. And it's like, we printed out pictures of what the final dishes looked like. My social media guy, Justin Brooks at the time, like, he sat there and he put down all the steps and what the ingredients were. So they had basically a paint by plate, so to say, kind of thing. When they got home, they could sit there and eat it. That's the biggest thing about this industry is the connections that you can make with people, and how you nurture those connections and grow them is really how successful you will be as a chef or trying to be a chef or at a restaurant is once people start to trust you, if you were to sit there and bump up a menu item $5, they're not going to question it. You know, they know what they're getting at the end result. And with food, especially now due to COVID, I mean, food pricing is through the roof. It's insane. They can't keep up with production now because people aren't working. You know, they had to kill off a bunch of animals because they had nothing to do with them. I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs into it when you start looking in, like reading between the lines, so to say, on
definitely
how sustainable are like this generation or this upcoming generation is going to make the food industry. Where so many people are, you know, we need this. Like, yeah, I'm sure like we're all able to do something else, but would we be happy doing it? Would we be able to do it on a consistent basis that we're trying to like achieve right now? It's tough. COVID has definitely been the biggest curveball thrown into this industry, and I don't know how long. And a lot of it is, you know, I think you can go about it as if you want to go out and eat, go out and eat. You know, if you want to treat yourself, treat yourself. I don't think anybody should be confined to 4 walls. I mean,
and to-go food just doesn't taste as good when it's plated on a plate.
It just, unless it's from Longhorn or TGI Fridays, and it was after you like picked it up to go because you had sat at that bar for way too long.
So with COVID, you know, where were you at your, you know, current spot? Were you guys doing to-goes? How was that, you know, and where are we at now, you know, with that?
So when COVID started and everything, I was actually in Sarasota. I was executive chef cuisine and executive sous chef, working on being executive chef once summer hit. So I was like 2 months away from taking over a country club in Sarasota, private, Laurel Oaks. Awesome place. I mean, I had my own pickling room. I had a dry age room. I had everything at my disposal.
So jealous. I'm jealous of you country club chefs, because you guys really do get to do a lot of really cool things because you get to have that personal connection with each guest, right?
Oh yeah.
And also the budget there.
And the budget.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it was one of those
cost?
Yeah, it was one of those things is like
I work at a country club. What's food cost?
Yeah.
You'll put that on a shirt.
Exactly. It's like it's one of those things is they would be upset if food cost was under 55-60% because they didn't feel like they were getting what they had to spend every single month to eat there, but they had to pay for their individual meals. But we only did dinner service Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night.
So you guys had food and beverage minimums?
They had, so we did like a huge buffet on Wednesdays, and then we did Sunday brunch, and then we did lunch in between to support the golf, like people golfing and stuff like that.
And a bunch of events, right? Tied all into there.
Yeah,
as well.
A bunch of weddings, stuff like that, which was open to the public, which I love weddings. Those are always fun, especially like when you have people that aren't afraid to spend money.
I need 300 pounds of Brussels sprouts, please.
Yeah, you know, and you're like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I did a couple weddings where it was like they wanted steamship rounds. And it was, you know, I had Cheney Brothers drop off their big smoker trailers just so I could execute like steamship rounds for 400, 500 people.
What are steamship rounds? If you know, I'm not too familiar.
So a steamship round is basically the whole the back leg of a cow, so to say. So it's the hind leg, but it's Frenched out to a point that you get your top, your bottom round, like everything.
It looks kind of like a piece of Iberico, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But from a cow,
but it's
so
85 pounds. But it's 85 pounds.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
I mean, it feeds hundreds of people. And it's like doing a couple of events like that. Like the country club was awesome.
And is that like spit roasted or is that, you know, smoked?
So you can do, so I was smoking them You know, I would dress them all out, everything like that, season them, whatnot. We had a huge rotating combi oven. So I could literally fit the whole thing in the combi oven, and I could go low setting. And
Country club toys.
Dude, exactly.
Country club toys.
It's just one of those things.
It's like, you had.
It's one of those things. Is like, it was awesome. Like, I worked at the Gasparilla Inn with Master Chef Peter Timmons. I got into his apprenticeship program years ago. I was like 20 at the time, I think. And that kitchen alone was the size of 2 football fields. We had 10 walk-ins just in the kitchen. And then the pastry shop was, I mean, they had full rotating proofers. They had 6 other walk-ins just for the pastries. I mean, the country club life is really good if you can land the right position. A lot of people look at country club life as like, well, that's about as sustainable as it's going to get kind of thing. And you can definitely find it, and you'll fall into that kind of mediocrity, you know, where it's everything
get comfortable.
Exactly. Like, don't ever get comfortable in this industry. If you like feel like to your point where it's like, man, this is just
because you can always go back, right?
Yeah, you can always go back.
I guarantee, you know, in 30 years we could still land a line cook job at pretty much any place.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I still work the line. I love the line. I work the grill on the busy nights. You know, I saute throughout all the other nights. Like, man, that's the one thing is that, like, as an executive chef, I never really got that disconnect from the line work.
But you kind of get the best of that world, right? You come in, you're like, I got this ticket. I got this.
You know what I mean? But at this,
the
you get
16
to pick and
mac
choose
and
what's
cheese.
the cook.
It's not even like
it's
the pick and choose, but it's not. Is like I put myself in that role. It's like, okay, if I'm working saute tonight, then it's, you know, I'm no better than the person to the left or the right. Like, at the end of the day, we're all trying to get the same food up at the same time, or either on the same plate at the same time. So the whole, like, the title really doesn't mean anything if the end product is what it needs to be, and it's, you know, the best that we can make it.
Best advice I ever got was stay close to the flame. The higher you go, stay close to the flame.
Yep, stay close to the flame. That's exactly it. Is don't walk that path of disconnecting from everything, because it just makes it harder.
Nothing should be, you know, above you or you know,
no.
Or beneath
Are
you
kidding me? Like, man, I used to, like, it happened a month and a half ago. You know, we didn't have a dishwasher. We did like 250 covers at the end of the night. You know what? Our whole line was in dish pit. We were cranking tunes. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, dude, I'll bust out a 3-stage sink. Like, no one's business. Like, if someone worked the machine, I'll keep feeding you. And that was like, it was one of those things that I've always done. I've done more dishwash work as an executive chef than I ever have as any other position.
But that's amazing to hear, because you are leading by example. I know me as a line cook, seeing, you know, the executive chef touch a dish or do the, you know, end of night sweep or end of night, you know, close out with you. That's like, yo, this guy, you know, whatever he's saying, he means it.
Yeah, and that's just it. Is like, you know, always stay to the end. You know, don't leave. Like, you're basically, whatever your position is in a restaurant nowadays, especially, is even if you're lead line cook, if you're nothing but you're the head saute guy, or if you're, you know, if you're the exec or the chef de cuisine or anything like that, is like, you should always try and be there from start to finish kind of thing. Is like, my schedule is difficult right now because I've got kids that, you know, they go to school, I pick them up from school, I drop them off at school, and then I take like a 2-hour, 3-hour break, and then I go back in for service and finish up the night. And whenever I show back up to work, I have that, like, though no one will say it, it's like that. I know people are like, this guy just shows up and then
that, like,
gets
guilty.
to leave.
Right.
Like, you feel bad about it, but at the same time, it's like, yo, like, it is what it is. Like, I'm here 6.5 hours before any of you guys show up.
Right.
To make sure that things are covered.
But that's that line cook ego, you know. That's just what it is, and I feel like I've had that all the time, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
And also, it's like
an executive chef resentment.
I'm not an executive
chef.
chef. Like right now, you know, I'm not an executive chef. I'm not, you know, I run multiple concepts. You know, I have complete freedom on what I want to do. And, you know, I work really well with the owner, and it just is what it is, you know, we both see the vision. We want to get it there.
Yeah. Right. People just see the tip of the iceberg, but they don't see, you know, what it took to get there. And
exactly.
That's the that's the difference of why you're working the line today, and you know where that is. And then tying back to earlier, it's like they shouldn't look at you, you know, in that way, even though, you know, as a line cook, as a young gun, you're gonna have that ego, you know, you're gonna be cutthroat to that position, but you should be focused on, well, how do I get to that position? What did he do to get there? How is he, you know?
That's just it. And, you know, and that's the one thing, like, competition is great in this industry. You know, I've always strived off competition is, you know, hey, I used to tell when I was executive chef of like restaurants, I used to tell people, you guys should want my job. Like you should be gunning after like getting me out of here. But just know it's going to be a hell of a battle. And I'm going to welcome it, because at the end of the day, it's going to make you better and it's going to make me better. And if it happens, it happens. But I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen.
Right. It's an opportunity for both of you to test your skills. Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Like I used to do competitions, like prep competitions and stuff like that. I love doing like prep competitions, you know. I had my buddy actually just sent me this video today, and he's like, do you remember this? And I was like, yeah, I remember that. And he's like, it's still on their page. And we did a 6 duck breakdown challenge where like someone was like, I'm pretty sure I'm faster at breaking down ducks than you. And I was like, all right, grab 6, grab a case. Let's go. Let's put it on the cutting board and let's go. And I had 6 ducks, clean, trimmed, everything, defatted, everything like that. And I finished in like, it was like 2 minutes and like 20 seconds. And
I love that.
Like, dude, I watched the video today, and it was like I was putting them in vacuum bags with my compound fat and sealing them up while they were still breaking down ducks. And it was just like, it's like, I don't always move that fast, but like you're going to call someone out.
When you time it, it's a whole different thing.
The timer's on.
But it's also the, you know, the practice, right? I used to have to break down 8 to 11 cases of chicken, and I would have to go next to my sous chef. Not only did my sous chef have the sharpest knife I've ever seen in the kitchen, but he had no hesitation in terms of cut, you know, legs, done.
It's that, but it's like, you get to that point when you know you've had a knife in your hand so many times, like you've cut yourself so many times. Like even in a competition like that, it's like if I nick my finger, I'm not worried about that. I'm going to put a glove on and a piece of tape or whatever I need to do. I'm finishing this out. Like we started it, we're going to finish it. It's simple as that. You know, we're in this. Like, you know, you want to start it, then let's go. Like shucking oysters. We used to do all different types of competition.
I love that. I think that brings, especially to, you know, someone that this is all new to, right? You know, your 47-year-old line cook that's been there with you for 5 years, that oyster competition is not gonna, not gonna be his thing.
No.
But everybody else is gonna be like, yo, I gotta come in early. We got an oyster competition. Yo, I'm gonna be set. I'm not watching Netflix that night. Yeah. So I know, I love that.
I'm gonna beat Chef tomorrow. Yeah.
Because
that's just it.
That boosts the morale. That grows, that family mentality, and that brings everybody together, right? And it also shows, who's got it and who still needs to work at it. So like, as the teacher in the room, you evaluate that as well. So it's a really good thing to be done. I think, from everything I've heard, I think that's amazing. And I just remember this one time where, I was, big ego, and I'm like, yeah, Chef Giuseppe, yeah, I can break down a Bronzino faster than you. Or something like that. Or like, he's like, do you even know how to break down? Like, I was like, I want to be a sous chef. Like, give me that sous chef position. He's like, do you even know how to break down Bronzino? I was like, I can YouTube it, Yeah. And he goes, all right, bro, come in the back. Hey, Chef Johnny, turn on the timer. Breaks down his fish like a minute, not even a minute, super clean. And then when it come to me, it's just like, dude, I dropped the ball. I was like, my hand's shaking. Yeah. There's 3 sous chefs looking at me. I don't know where this is going. Oh, what did I get myself into? And, for 3 months, I probably kept my head down. I didn't say a word to anybody. I was just,
That's just it, though. It's like, I did K-comps and stuff like that when I was at the Gasparilla Inn. And that was not the best experience for me. I realized how, at that moment, like, I was in this apprenticeship program, and, I had already been sous chef. I had already been exec. I've already been chef cuisine. And it's like, I demoted myself kind of to like get into this and like learn from a master chef, which at the time it was like one of 89 in the world. And I worked with multiple at all times.
Right. Sometimes it's more important for the opportunity than the position and the pay.
Exactly. And it was one of those things is like when we started doing K-comps, like one of our competitions was like fluke. And I didn't make it to practice. I didn't show up to prep day. I didn't do any of the steps that everybody else did. But it was like when I showed up to like work, they were like, you have to break down a fluke tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, flounder. And they're like, no, it's a fluke. And I'm like, okay, it's a flounder. Turbot, fluke, flounder. It's all the same shit.
Yeah,
it's all the same shit. It's a flatfish. And I was like, man, I filleted so many of these. Like, I'm not worried about it. And they're like, well, how fast do you think you could be able to break down a fluke? And I was like, well, how big are they? And they're like, well, they're like 2.5, 5 pound average. And I was like, oh man, that's like 6 cuts. Like, it is what it is. And when the competition comes, it's like, you just execute it and nail it. And then they're like, man, fuck this guy. Like,
yeah, you're the most hated
in the best way,
exactly.
Right?
And it's just one of those things. It's like, I used to leave work as an executive chef and go work for my fishmonger to fillet fish because, he paid me great on the side, which was fine, but he allowed me I got to portion all my fish for my restaurants. That he paid me to portion all the fish for my restaurants. So when my fish order would come in the next day, it was already cut, clean, trimmed. I had the head already ready to go. I had the bones all ready to go for stock. And he paid me to do that on the side. And it was like, I'd leave work and I'd go and cut fish from 12 to 3 in the morning. Cause we're all up until 3 in the morning anyways. And it's like, what are we going to spend our time doing? I was like, well, shit, it's 5 minutes down the road from my house. I'm going to go cut fish. I'm going to get a head for tomorrow, and I'm going to get first pick.
What an amazing opportunity to have that, right there at, to be able to do that. That's every chef would want to do that almost.
Exactly. And it was one of those things is like filleting fish and stuff like that. He let me get away with it because I'd clock 1,200 pounds an hour filleting fish. And it's, one of those things. But doing that and spending that time and perfecting that side of the craft has carried me so far that where, 3 weeks ago, we had a 50-pound case of cobia come in whole, and we needed it for service. And it's a Friday night, and I got there at 5:30, and they're like, we have no cobia for service. Well, cool. I'm happy that I can break down 50 pounds in less than 5 minutes and have it all ready for you. And here it is. It's like, that's where like you spend all this time learning knife skills. Is like, knife skills are the most important thing in this industry. It's going to carry you further than almost anything else, because if you're able to get a consistent product at a consistent speed, then it frees up so much other time in your day that it doesn't matter if it's like your prep list is, oh man, I have to dice 10 onions. If it takes you 2 minutes to do 10 onions, then you just freed up 58 minutes off your next task, so to say.
Right, and I think the best chefs look at a prep list as, a game of how fast can I get this done.
How fast can I get this done? And like, man, like, please, like, can we add some, like, it's one of those things. It's like everything comes down to eventually on the line, whether you're a chef or a line cook or anything, it's all time trial. If you run out of fresh pasta and you had 86'd it, and your front of the house is your typical front of the fucking house, and they ring it in and they're like, well, here's 4 more orders of pasta, and you're like, well, I 86 that 20 minutes ago, and you just rang in 4 more orders. And it's like, okay, how do I be a dick but not a dick? And it's like, I'll make 4 orders of fresh pasta in less than 10 minutes and have your plate ready to go, and here it is. And then at the end of the night, you kind of sit there and be like, don't ever do that again.
Right, but that's like, practice makes consistent, and then you're removing the hesitation of like being in a shitty situation and being able to get out of it in 1,000 different scenarios. That, it's almost like, we have this chef computer in our brain, and it goes, okay, do it this way, that's 10 minutes. Do it this way, that's that. Do it, and then you pick the best route, and then there's no like, once you've picked it, there's no, there's no going back.
Yeah, there's no going back.
There's no, okay, well, we can give them this or this. It's, okay, I got your pasta in 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes. You'll have your pasta.
Yeah, you make a decision. You better stick with it.
Exactly. You can't
indecisiveness kills. Yeah.
And that's, hey, it's just like when you go to put, like anytime you do like a schmear or a swoosh on a plate or anything like that, you hesitate, you fuck it up.
I love it.
You have to commit
to the swoosh.
So
we had our culinary chef Rob used to have a great saying: is never run out of the cheapest item on your menu. And pasta is a great revenue stream, margins, everything.
It is, and the best thing about pasta is it's such a home cookery side of things that it's just utilization of product on hand. Whatever you have, you can turn it into a pasta dish, and 9 times out of 10, if your pasta's cooked right, it doesn't matter. It's delicious. Like, people love pasta, and that's like, we make our own, we do our own ricotta, we make everything from scratch, the pasta's from scratch and everything like that. And it's like, at the end of the day, man, it doesn't really matter what you throw into that gnocchi. People that want gnocchi are going to sit there and go, oh man, like, that's good gnocchi.
Right. It's gnocchi and then fixins,
Yeah,
what
exactly.
The fixins are is what we got in the fridge.
Yeah.
I love it. Chef, thank you so much for coming on tonight and joining us and talking with us and sharing all this knowledge. I mean, what an absolute wealth of, different culinary journey than most have probably had, but as well as just how humble you are about.
I'm definitely interested to hear more about your Jamaican journey.
Yes, the Rastafarian compound.
We can talk about that anytime you want. So
I love it.
But yeah, as I cut Doug short, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning in, and what an incredible journey you shared. You definitely got what it takes. We're all rooting for you. We want to see you hit the highest of highs. You've put in the practice. You've paid your dues. The sacrifices speak for themselves. And so many correlations, right? Like taking the demotion to get yourself in a higher position, like so many well said thoughts, so much inspiration to take from this pod. So, we want to, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and I always like this outlet and everything like that is great for any chef that wants to go on and do it, because we all have our own stories. We all have our own trials and tribulations of what have made us who we are and how we got there, or how we're trying to get there still. And especially due through COVID being the biggest curveball I think our industry has ever really hit. I think it's pushed a lot of people to become more, and some people to become less. So everybody needs that positive jump. So this is a great outlet you guys are doing, and thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's definitely humbling. We want everybody out there to just be safe and know that we're all here and that we're building this community together. Me and Truffle Boy, one amazing chef every single podcast. So one by one, we'll be there for everyone. Anyone who needs anything, just DM us. If you guys want to get on the show, it's just a DM away. We try to reply as soon as possible. So let us know, and we'll get you scheduled. We appreciate all those kind words, Chef, and everybody stay safe out there. Please remember to just be respectful to one another. Remember, we're all there for the common goal, which is to deliver some delicious food to our guests.
Right. And on a sweet final note, we have this final question that we're trying to get to the origin of, because I always misphrase the question. But where did 86 come into your life? What fun stories do you have, if any? And yeah.
86 into my life. Man, I never heard the term 86 until I think I was like 20. And it just happened when I was on Expo one day. And, because I grew up in a country club, so we didn't really 86 anything, because we never really sold anything. Yeah. We never really sold anything sometimes, where it was one of those things. But, it was at the busy restaurant in Inglewood, and I was like, they told me we're out of something, and they were like, write it on the 86 board. And I was like, what does that mean? The 86 board. And so I was like, to me at first was just writing it down. And then, you kind of sat there and I started asking people, and I was like, 86, like, where did this come from? And this guy, Juan, who was the lead line cook, told me that, well, back then, if you sold 86 orders of anything, you were fucked. So that was his explanation of where it came from. Is like, if you got to the point where you sold 86 salmon or 86 this or 86 this, he was like, if we sold 86 of anything on this line, we'd be screwed. And he was like but I don't really know too much about the, because I can't imagine, where I've heard it before was like, that was the, for certain things you'd make, you'd have 86 items for any given service. But I can't imagine actually, like, working in the industry for 15, 16 years now, is like, I've never once gone to a place where it's like, I've sold 86 orders of scallops in one night. to where it's like,
or that the prep list has a par of 86.
Yeah,
if you're getting hit with 30 of one menu item, you're fucked. Your mise is not on par.
Your menu, it needs to be redesigned because there's a lot that's not being ordered. But 86 to me is, I mean, I use it in daily. Like, you know, it's like any chef talk. It's like you always say, well, 86 this, 86 that, or no, I'm 86 right now. Or it's like if you're going down a aisle in a grocery store and you go behind, left, right, you know, and people look at
all
you
the time. I'll be like corner when I'm coming out of the Publix.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're going, you're turning aisles and you're like corner right, corner left, and people like you look at their face and they're just like, what is wrong with this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
I love the way you tied that in, because that is something we carry with ourselves for sure.
So it's, hey, the kitchen lingo is like, it just is what it is. But the whole 86 thing, that's the first time I really came about it.
A terrific explanation.
That's the story I got. I don't know if there's truth to it. I haven't really actually sat there and dove into the whole 86 theory, but I look at it this way: is if 86 is your number that you're capping things off at, you're way too busy. And you better have like 25, 30 people on your line to keep up with that. And that includes prep cooks, because prep cooks, doesn't matter where you are or where you're at, and you may think you're not anything in this industry, you are the backbone of the kitchen, just like the dishwasher is. We can't do anything that we're trying to do without you providing the plateware to put it up on.
100%. Your line cook that's coming in at 1 p.m. hungover is not doing that. He's not doing that prep. There's no way he's going to be able to catch up. So, and I think, you know, being in a position where, you know, I did go through dishwasher, prep cook, you know, line cook, CDP, sous chef, you know, executive chef at my parents' place, which doesn't count. But
it counts, man.
It's different, right? It's different when you're controlling, you know, 15 line cooks versus 3, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you still have those same responsibilities. You're still doing, you know, the same daily chores, and
the boundaries don't change.
Yeah.
You know, the workload doesn't change. You could have 15 people in your kitchen. You could have 30 people in your kitchen. The workload is still the workload.
Right.
Still got to manage all the same pieces.
100%. Yeah. But yeah, I think, you know, prep cooks are not only essential, but prep cooks is a great starting point, because you get that repetition. You're doing 22 quarts of carrot brunoise and throwing them in a stock pot, and then, you know, cooking that and then reducing that to a sauce. And you're like, wow, well, did we really have to do that? Well, yes.
No, we didn't.
To get that repetition.
But you really did.
Yes. There you go.
Exactly. It's like, no, I didn't have to do that. I mean, realistically, when it comes to demi and stuff like that, and stocks, is for the most part, you can cut everything in half.
Right.
It doesn't really affect anything. And I'm sure there's people out there that'll sit there and say otherwise, but
now,
you know.
Just out of curiosity, you brought up demi, you brought up steakhouse. Do you guys, make your own demi glaze, and do you do a Remy as well and use that for your braise? And Doug as well, if you want to get your input in that.
We make our own demi in house, definitely. It's not, to me, when I do demis, I always do like a double or triple wash, and then I always incorporate, you know, my hard roasted garlic in one wash, or I'll do my hard roasted leeks and onions in another wash, and then I'll do my carrots and celery in another wash to build on flavors of that demi. I am against any tomato paste in my demi. Completely.
That's a big one. That's a thickener.
I don't do it, never have done it, and I just at the back end of any demi, if it has tomato paste in it, to me, is the flavor profile always falls flat, because you have that cooked, preserved tomato tinny paste that's what you're using to thicken the sauce, so to say. And I just don't think demi, which like bones and everything like that, they're not an acidic product. And everything that you're adding into it are like sweet notes or earthy notes or anything like this. It doesn't really play into needing that sugar content that you get from tomato paste, but it also doesn't need that acidity that you're playing into it. Because at the end of the day, anybody that like, I know when I do demi and stuff like that, it's like I'm able to hold a ton of melted butter that where it's like, even if it's room temp,
you took my next question away. But yes, keep going there.
It's like at the end of the day, it's like if I melt butter into my demi and then it stays room temp, I could still take it out of a quart container and bounce it on the ground and it'd be room temp. But if you add just like, it starts hitting that like 110 degrees, it glazes, it sauces, it does everything you want it to do, and it sticks. It doesn't run.
You get that?
It's fortified. Yeah, it's like peanut butter. If your tongue doesn't stick to the top of your mouth after having the demi, is it really a demi?
100% agreed.
I love that. That's how I
my
look at it.
question was gonna be, as a line cook, being a savage out there, that mounting butter in demi, that's like the best tasting spoon you'll ever have.
Oh yeah, but it's the proper mounting. It's like you can't rush it. It has to reduce to the point to where it's like too far gone. And then that's when you start mounting, because that's when it's going to allow the proteins to accept the fat and build that sauce. Like I make my own like Worcestershire sauce. It takes over a month to make, and it's completely
37 ingredients.
Mine's up to like, I can tell you right now, it's again, go back to weighing things out. It's one of the only things I really sit there and weigh out, and it's grammed out and everything. And I mean, just prep wise, before it even hits a flame or anything, takes about 3 hours. It's probably upwards of like 50 ingredients. It sits for over a month.
That's that steakhouse. Oh man,
and
that's the prep killer right there. Oh, we gotta make a batch of Worcestershire sauce.
Oh well, that's just like, I have a batch right now in the walk-in that it's 5 24-quart Cambros.
Wow.
And I'll get enough to last us throughout. I'm gonna take some and I'm gonna barrel age it, and then make a private stock, because I reduce it down and then I basically make, it's like a souped up version of A1 sauce.
Love it.
But it doesn't have that over acidic, it's got black cardamom, it's got green cardamom.
A1 sauce kills me because it's got that medicinal taste to it.
Exactly. This doesn't have that. Like I make my own, like I have my own curry spice that I make, that I fold into it at a certain stage in the fermenting process. I fold in jalapenos in a certain fermenting process. It's got ginger. It's got 2 different types of anchovies. I make our own molasses.
Is there any apple in there? Any apple in
There's
there?
no apple.
No apple.
I used to make it with apple juice because I wanted the pectin to when I went to the reducing stage. But I started cutting that out, and I just upped up the molasses and the burnt caramel content to it to act as that thickening agent, so to say. But I mean, by the time it's all said and done, I mean, it was one thing that I brought to Emmer and Oak, and I was like, yo, because I have my own canning business on the side that I like stopped. That's what I started for COVID. And then I realized that no one's going to pay $16 for a jar of blueberry jam because I can't mass produce things. And it was like, all right, I'll do this here. And it's a lot of ingredients. It's a lot of tamarind. which is not cheap by any means, but by the
and
time
the tamarind paste, right? The brick.
Yeah. So, well, there's I use tamarind. So whole tamarind, and then the perfect puree tamarind is your best route to go.
I love perfect purees. Shout out to Napa Valley Perfect Purees.
Yeah, right. They're killing it on everything that comes in there.
Have you had their green apple puree?
The green apple.
Oh my God.
Right now, so we do a cobia ceviche right now that we just put on the menu, and it has a passion fruit and aji amarillo curd, and then it has a perfect puree coconut and cilantro cream. Fresh cobia that's marinated out, everything like that. And then I make the XO sauce that I garnish it with. So it's got umami. It has the texture of a good ceviche, cobia, which is just full of fat. It's got the acidity and the heat from the curd. And then the coconut perfect puree, like thinned out, is just that perfect median to carry it all the way through to where
balances
it's not too much, it's not too much XO. It's not too much acid. It's not too much heat. We made the dish, and then it's like, this is the idea. Here it is. And then I ended up taking a week off of work because my kids were sick. And I came back, and it was like, I made all the components, so to say, but then didn't get to be there for the final product. And then you try the final product, and you sit there and look back at it, and you're like, damn,
nailed it.
Just like, it just like certain things just come through at times. But Demi, everybody has their own method. Everybody has their own mentality.
I've had my hand slapped off the pot. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Who put you in charge of this?
But I stay away from red wine, and I stay away from tomato paste. Because to me, red wine is more if I'm going for a au jus than a demi, and I just don't like tomato paste. It just is what it is.
I agree with that. I don't cook with a lot of tomato paste, but I think we can keep this pod going, till 3 a.m. and then we'll be cooking out pasta. But we do have to end it here. What a pleasure it was to have you on the pod.
No,
so much knowledge, so much fun, just the the creativity that you bring to the table, the freedom that you have right now. Like it's just amazing, for me and Doug to see chefs in positions where they're, happy, growing, thriving, able to, pass that down to the next generation and really do what, we set out to do, which is cook amazing food and make, our clients, our guests happy, right?
Exactly. That's all it is. And before we end it, I just shout out Ember and Oak, Melbourne, Florida, downtown.
Bringing that back. John Apina, best shout outs ever.
Kevin Anderson. He's making all this happen for a lot of people during this pandemic. So,
Kevin Anderson, shout out to you, man. Thank you so much.
Holding that group together. So, that's worth its weight in gold, especially right now in this crisis that this industry is really holding through. And so I appreciate it.
100%. Bringing it down from that downtone a little bit up. I think everything is headed in the right direction.
Exactly.
Where, to the moon. Hopefully Dogecoin picks up a little bit, but we'll see. Oh my
goodness.
You got every line cook, in it. I think at this point, it's definitely been a conversation.
Is that the hot take?
I think line cooks and chefs and CDCs and execs are talking about stocks more than they've ever had, especially with all this, laxy daisy time that we've had, during COVID. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. But thank you guys for tuning in to another amazing pod. Guest chef Chef Carson Schiro. Thank you so much for being on the pod tonight. Everybody stay safe. Have a good evening. And get that hassle back with all the fixins.
Hell yeah.
There you are. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Appreciate it.
Of course.